The Canon 5D Mark III versus the Canon T5I. What do I like? What don't I like? Let's get into it. Starting off here, we have the Canon T5i. On it, I have a 17 to 55 millimeter f2.8 Tamron lens. And I do like this lens a lot. It is really nice for just going around and doing whatever with, as well as allowing you to take pictures while it's a little bit darker out. Not super dark, but a little bit darker out. Does a really good job. So that's the lens that's going to be sitting on this camera for this segment of the video. Let's get into what's going on with the 5D here. Now, I am very aware of what I have done here, okay? The main pitfall of this camera is a skill issue on my part because of the glass that I am putting on this camera, for the most part. Now, I had bought this body, just to give you a slight recap here, I had bought this body thinking that most of my crop frame lenses were for full frame cameras, when that was not actually true. Which means that after I got it, I only had two lenses that would work. My 100 to 400 millimeter ProMaster Spectrum 7, and then my 50 millimeter here. Now, since then, I have gotten two more lenses here. This one is a Tamron 28 to 300 millimeter. It is okay. It's nothing great, it's nothing fancy, but for what I was trying to do, it does get the job done. Now, this lens probably will not be sticking around. Probably going to try the Sigma version, hoping that that's a little bit better, right? Okay, because I don't need a fantastic lens when it comes to this millimeter range. I just need something that can go from a tighter 28 millimeter shot up to 300 or 250 or something like that for rail fanning, right? Okay, I just need an all-around okay or decent wide zoom range lens, and this is just low quality enough to where I'm not super satisfied with it, right? So while this lens is interesting, it probably won't be sticking around if the Sigma version of this is better. And I will get into pictures on this lens. I'll also get into pictures on this lens, which in this case is a Canon 28 to 135 millimeter, and this lens is a good bit sharper than this lens. Still not the sharpest lens, but it is still a bit better. Still not fantastic though by any means. And back to my original point, the main pitfall with this camera for me is the glass that I'm putting on it. Now, it does take great pictures with the 50 millimeter f1.8, but then I'm locked into a prime lens, right? And when it comes to rail fanning, that doesn't fly with me. And basically, long story short, the pitfall is the glass that is these two pieces of glass that I'm putting on it. What I really need to do is to get an L series lens. I would like something with a good bit of zoom range, but L series lenses are expensive, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm decently satisfied with this lens here on this camera. Again, still absolutely holding it back, but for the moment, I'm satisfied with it. The one thing I'm not super satisfied with is autofocusing on this camera. To be fully honest with you, the autofocusing on the T5i is a little bit better in my experience with it so far. The T5i just seems to be a little bit better, and then when it comes to autofocusing. And then another thing about the T5i compared to the 5D Mark III is, to me personally, the Canon color science on this T5i is just, to my eyes, is just slightly better enough to me personally than this 5D. The T5i is not going anywhere, and I'll show you why. This Tamron 18 to 70 or 18 to 270 millimeter crop sensor lens on this T5i just produces absolutely fantastic telephoto pictures to me. I love everything about it. I love the quality of the pictures. I love how the colors look. I like how the trains pop with the colors against the foreground. It's and I again, I'll get into pictures, right? Okay. On a bunch of these lenses. Not this one because I don't have any of trains, which is what I'm mainly shooting. As long as other stuff here and there, but I don't have any of those on hand. And as much as I want to say, you know, the Canon 5D Mark III is the best camera I've ever had, right? And I'm only going to be using it from now on. They both have their use cases. Close-up shots, 5D Mark III. Absolutely, right? Okay. And, you know, when it, even some close-up shots, right? You know, 5D Mark III does a good job, but the color science on this T5i, I love it. I don't know how else to explain it. Now, as far as feel and ergonomics go, 5D Mark III all day. I absolutely love how this feels in my hand. It's great. It's great. I like a big chunky camera, and this absolutely does that for me. You know, holding the T5i, it's not small. It's not small, but after holding the 5D Mark III for so long, the T5i feels a little cramped in the hand. Now, I do have another camera coming that I got for a deal. That'll be in the next video, not this one. We'll see how that camera does. I'm not expecting it to be great, but I do think it'll be interesting. So let's go ahead and get into some of the pictures here. We're going to swap over to the computer for this part. And, you know, what we're going to be seeing here is pictures with the 28 to 135, pictures with the 28 to 300, and then pictures with the T5i and the 18 to 270. And I will do my best to show what I mean by the difference in them. Another thing is you're going to be looking at these images through a compressed YouTube video, because YouTube likes to compress the crap out of everything, for fair reason. So yeah, let's get into that, and then we'll come back here. Alright, so now we are over here to the desktop, and we will go through some of these images here. Now, another thing about the T5i is that it's not the best for moving objects. Like, if I were trying to shoot moving cars or something like this, or something like that, on the 5D, it would not go well, probably. But for trains, it seems to be just good enough for me to be able to keep it, because again, love the camera. Now this image here is on the Tamron 28 to 300, and you know, zooming in here, the conductor comes through here decently clear. If we look at the edges here, we can see that they are not the sharpest, right? Which, you know, is kind of expected for a lens of that caliber. You know, it's okay. When it's zoomed out, it's alright. It looks decent. But definitely something that can be improved upon. You can see the foliage in the background is quite rough. Now, to be honest, that could just be because I'm probably moving the camera while I'm trying to shoot the train. So, you know, in a lot of rail fending pictures, the background will be blurrier than the image of the train itself, right? Because the train is moving, you're trying to move the camera with the train so that it gets a clear picture of the train, and sometimes the background just suffers because of that. And that image sharpness definitely doesn't help here, where the camera doesn't quite sync up correctly with how the train is moving. Like we can see here, there's a lot of kind of, you can see it moving forward a little bit here, while the object itself is kind of back here. That could just be how I'm using it, to be honest with you. I just realized, is that a Rock Island car? Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, anyway, it's nuances like that with this camera that I'm still, very much learning. Moving on here. This car here is a decent example of some of the quality. With the 5D Mark III, even with the lens that I was using, this is still a Tamron 28 to 300. Let's go ahead and swap over to that Canon lens, the 28 to 135. Now we're talking. Definitely a lot sharper of an image. I think it was also able to autofocus a little bit quicker as well, which definitely helps in a use case like this. We can see some of this here, right? Okay, so some of this weirdness, that's just the exhaust coming off of the locomotive. That is not the camera. Obviously this is what is the main part of the picture, but if we look at some of the foliage here, towards the edges, we can definitely see some rainbow effect. That's just one of the pitfalls of this lens is in certain spots, especially towards the edges, there's absolutely some color fringing. But if we look at the center of the image, right, okay, if we look at the center of the image, decently sharp. Still a little bit of color fringing, slightly. A lot of blue here. That could just be the reflection of the locomotive with this lens as well. But yeah, definitely a lot sharper than that Tamron. And from a distance, it looks pretty decent. Looking at another one here, same train, with it being a little closer. Still noticeable if you look in close, but definitely less. And then, yeah, if we get like over here in the nitty gritty, it's not great. Center of the image, decent. Sides, definitely not so much. And that's, once again, that's just me putting subpar glass onto this camera. Needless to say, though, definitely still happy with, how these pictures turn out on this camera. I'm thrilled with it, quite honestly. Definitely need to get a better lens. Gotta see what else is out there. Maybe try something from Tamron or Sigma that's better quality, or go with the Canon L series lens, but it takes decent pictures. Getting into one of my favorite pictures from that shoot day, this is my absolute favorite that the that the 5D Mark III spat out at me. I love this image. The way you have some of the green bouncing off the side of the locomotive, the way you have kind of a sunset somewhat beginning in the background, the way you have some of this light shining through, how the headlights look. And in this image specifically, there's a little less blue going on. It's still there, absolutely. But there's a little less going on. This is my favorite image that the Mark D had spat out on Saturday. Now let's go ahead and move over to the T5I with that 18 to 270 millimeter and show why I absolutely love that combination. This is on the T5I with that 18 to 270 millimeter Tamron lens, and this is why I love telephoto lenses. Now if we look here, a lot of blue. around the edges here. Some edges more than others. A lot of blue. But, you know, if we're looking at the engine, I love the way these come out, and I love how it looks zoomed in. I love, you know, you can absolutely tell it's zoomed in. I love this in the background where you have all the heat waves coming up against the rolling stock here, and you know you can tell that it's somewhat hot outside. You can see the train behind it while the train itself looks clear, and it's shots like this that I just absolutely love with this camera and lens combination. Another shot here from that same train. You know, a little bit less blue going on, but it's still there, right? You know, this head-on shot, love that. And then, you know, again, same thing about all the freight in the back. This shot here, you know, definitely a little wavy because of the heat, right? Okay. But I just love the side views of the actual train itself. Here. So which one of these do I like more? I think that one. You know, just same thing again, right? Okay. And you know, yes, you may be staring at the blue over here and going, wow, that's a lot. But when you're looking at it on social media, on a phone screen, or just scrolling by on Facebook, you're not going to notice it really. Like, I bet if I had not pointed it out and you're not a serious lens or camera goer, you wouldn't have even noticed. You know, just going through some more here. You know, we got the signals on each side. We have the engine there in the middle. I love this combination. And again, the colors. I love the colors. It's something, it looks a little warm, if that makes sense, but I love how it looks. The way the headlights pop out here, right? Okay, with, you know, the warmness of the gravel and the light reflecting off of the rails, and then the pop of color between all the different containers back here with the signals on each side and the nose of that SD70, and it is just, it's why it stays in the camera bag. You know, as much as I love that 5D Mark III, the colors on the T5I with a telephoto lens just looks fantastic. You know, and it pains me a little bit to say that about my poor 5D Mark III, but it's the truth. So let's go over back to the desk, and we will exit this video out. So yeah, hopefully through that segment that we just went through, I would have been able to explain, you know, what I like about the 5D Mark III, why the T5I isn't leaving, why I like the photos the T5I takes with this lens so much. And yeah, hopefully that'll get some of my expression across. That's pretty much it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. You know, stick around. Hopefully, you know, by the time you're seeing this, the next video of the new camera is already up. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and next video we'll check out a Sony.